Have you ever looked at the clock and thought, I still have the whole day ahead, only to realize it's already night? That's life. It slips away without warning. Every, I'll do it later, every now's not the time, are seconds you'll never get back. And I hate to be the one to say it, but the biggest lie we tell ourselves is thinking there will always be more time. Time doesn't wait. And meanwhile, you keep putting yourself off. You're not here by accident. You're here because somewhere deep down you feel like life is passing you by. The days are slipping through your fingers, and you know it. You're not focused, you're not present, and it's pulling you further and further away from who you are. But it doesn't have to stay this way. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Those who don't value time lose it. Those who don't master their minds become their slaves. Today, I'll show you how to apply their wisdom to stop living halfway, how to protect your energy, regain your direction, and return to what truly matters. Because every minute you waste is one you'll never get back, and you've already lost too many. Before we go on, let me ask you something. How many days have you felt slipping away without even noticing? You got up, went through the same routine, and by the end of the day, you couldn't really say what you actually built for yourself. If that question makes you uncomfortable, subscribe and become an exclusive member to keep transforming your life with us. And tell me in the comments, what part of your life have you let slip away without realizing, or just write Stoic at heart? Today I start reclaiming my time because right now we're about to see how to stop wasting your life and how to truly start transforming it. Let's go. 1. Everything adds up. My friend, you know no one becomes a mess overnight, right? You don't just wake up one day in total chaos. It happens in small doses. 5 more minutes in bed, and I'll write later, I'll work out tomorrow. And before you realize it, you're no longer who you wanted to be. You're just the sum of all those little compromises. Funny thing is, what we now call wasting time was already understood 2,000 years ago. The Stoics were like superheroes who had already found the cure for procrastination. They knew life is built in the small things, in the habits you choose to repeat every day. Let's be real. You've probably done this. You're waiting for the elevator. You open TikTok just while it gets here. And when it finally opens, you're still watching. The doors close and you're still scrolling. 10 minutes you didn't plan to give away, but you gave them anyway. Same thing happens with your life. Every second you hand over to autopilot is like a misaligned layer in a 3D printer. Your identity is built layer by layer, day after day. And if today's layer turns out weak because you decided to leave it unfinished, tomorrow it'll still be just as fragile. But if you stack solid layers, even if they're thin, the structure can handle any hit. Epictetus knew this. His way of teaching was deeply practical. He said, every habit and ability is maintained and strengthened by the corresponding actions, walking by walking, running by running. Don't wait to feel disciplined to take action. Take action to become disciplined. Every repetition you make is like a weightlifting session for your character. Just like a muscle gets stronger with reps, your identity gets stronger with the actions you repeat daily. And if you think it's all about willpower, psychologist Wendy Wood would challenge that. She discovered that habits depend more on your environment than on your mental strength. If temptation is one click away, you'll fall into it faster. But if you put the action you want to take right in front of you, it becomes the natural choice. Want to write every morning? Leave your notebook and pen on your nightstand, not buried in a drawer. Want to work out? Set your clothes out right next to your bed. The environment trains you more than motivation ever could. That's why your motivation shouldn't be tied to the outcome. Tie it to the effort. If you tell yourself good job showing up every day, your brain releases dopamine just for taking action. That makes your motivation stable, not dependent on reaching a distant goal. Because the goal might take months, but the action is in your hands today. You'll probably see yourself in some of these scenes. You say, I don't have time to eat healthy, but then you spend 25 minutes scrolling. What if instead you spent part of your Sunday prepping 15 meals? 1 base of rice or quinoa, 2 toppings, some legumes and protein, and 3 sauces in jars. Boom. Meals for the whole week and dozens of daily decisions saved. Or think about something as simple as an email. If each morning you send one difficult email before opening any social media, you've already knocked over the first domino of your productive day. The small things aren't small. The small things define you. Now imagine Epictetus with a smartphone in his hand. Someone asks him why he doesn't unlock it every 5 minutes. He smiles and says, "Because each time I unlock it, I'm training the habit of unlocking." You can bet he'd activate some kind of monk mode for 45 minutes, just to train discipline. And even if it sounds funny, that's exactly what you should be doing. Every action is silent training for your character. So, are you ready for your routine to train you instead of the other way around? Try it with something ridiculously small. Pick a micro habit that takes just 2 minutes. It could be writing one single line in a journal, doing wall push-ups, or sending one overdue email. Do it in the same place, at the same time, every day for 21 days. If it works, double it to 4 minutes. That's how you train your brain, little by little, without needing anything epic. And don't forget one more thing: reward the effort out loud. End your action by saying, "Good job showing up." That tiny reinforcement keeps your motivation system alive. Don't celebrate the goal you haven't hit yet. Celebrate the step you took today. Every promise you keep, no matter how small, is a brick in your self-esteem. Every repeated action, no matter how minimal, adds another layer in the 3D print of your identity. And every second you choose to live with intention is a second no longer wasted. 2. Stop comparing yourself. You've probably been through my friend, here's the truth no one tells you. Your life won't transform with some one-day revolution. It transforms with every step you choose to repeat. If today you take the same step as yesterday, you'll get the same result. But if today you choose something different, everything can change. Don't waste another second waiting for a big burst of motivation. Build it into your routine. Let each layer shape your character, because everything adds up. And tomorrow it'll add up even more. You were feeling fine, content with your day, until you opened Instagram. You saw someone's trip to Bali, someone else's new car, someone's perfect relationship. And suddenly, what you had didn't seem like enough. The poison of comparison seeps in within seconds. But this didn't happen to the Stoics, because they didn't measure their lives by someone else's display window, but by how far they were progressing on their own path. For them, the only thing that mattered was what they were cultivating on the inside, not the image they projected to the outside world. But you're caught in that trap of comparison, wasting your time. It's like living in front of a warped mirror. Imagine a gym where the mirrors stretch some people out and flatten others. You look at yourself and think something's wrong. But it's not you, it's the mirror. Social media is that warped mirror. What you see is a cropped, edited, filtered version. And using that to measure your life is like trying to find north with a broken compass. No matter how far you go, it always feels like the wrong direction. Marcus Aurelius said it with brutal honesty. Many times I've wondered in amazement how everyone values themselves more than anyone else, yet still puts less weight on their own opinion than on the opinion of others. Ironic, isn't it? You value yourself more than anyone, but when it's time to decide, someone else's opinion matters more than your own. If you let your worth depend on how others see you, you'll never have peace. And here's the trap: comparison is human. We all do it. Psychology calls it social comparison, but when the gap feels too big, instead of motivating you, it crushes you. Doesn't it happen to you? You finish scrolling and feel worse than when you started? That's no accident. A study from the University of Michigan found that the more time you spend passively looking at social media, the worse you feel about yourself. And in another experiment from the University of Pennsylvania, people who limited their social media to 30 minutes a day had less anxiety and depression in just 3 weeks. It makes perfect sense. Less comparison, more calm. Think about your everyday life. You come back from a school reunion and everything was going well. You laughed at old stories, remembered school memories, even thought, I'm really happy with what I have. Until someone drops a bomb. They start talking about their job at a bank, their promotion, how well they're doing. And suddenly, that sense of calm disappears. You stop hearing what others are saying. You stop laughing. You don't even enjoy the food. You go silent in your head, comparing your life to his. And the worst part? All the time you could have spent connecting with friends or creating a good memory, you wasted it obsessing over something that wasn't even yours. Now picture Epictetus at that same school reunion. He hears the guy from the bank bragging about his salary, and while everyone else is impressed, he just smiles calmly. If someone told him, "Epictetus, your life's nothing compared to his," he'd probably say, "It's lucky you only found that out. If you knew everything, else I lack, you'd have stories for the whole night." Then he'd go right back to enjoying the conversation with the person next to him, because what mattered wasn't the comparison. It was how he chose to live that moment. So tell me, are you ready to stop living trapped in that broken mirror? One simple option. Limit your time on social media. Try it for 7 days. 30 minutes a day max. Set a timer. Move your apps off the home screen. Remove the one-click temptation. A small experiment with a big effect. Less comparison. More focus on your own path. And you can also build what I call your personal odometer. Choose 3 internal metrics that truly matter. Hours of real practice at your craft, deep tasks completed, or quality time with your people. Check in on them every night. If you made progress there, you're on the right track, even if no one sees it or applauds. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius stood for. Your own judgment is more valuable than anyone else's. Another practical move, try a comparison detox. For 15 days, only follow accounts that show the process, the behind the scenes, the real stuff. Mute anything that only triggers your anxiety. Replace highlight reels with people who share how hard it is to get there. And if you want to go further, switch to active consumption. Instead of scrolling silently, comment, ask, contribute. Studies show that even that changes how you feel afterward. Every time that poison of comparison tries to sneak in, remember this: your path doesn't need to look like anyone else's. The only thing that matters is whether you're a bit clearer, stronger, or more disciplined than you were yesterday. If you're going to compare, let it be with the version of you that you left behind. If you let your life be measured by what others are doing, you'll always feel late, always not enough. But if you choose to measure it by what you're building day by day, you reclaim your power. Don't waste another second trying to run in someone else's lane. Your ground is different. Your pace is yours. And that's exactly where your real transformation begins. 3. What if your emotion doesn't deserve a reaction? Tell me something. How many times have you regretted saying something in the heat of the moment? That awful feeling of, why didn't I just stay quiet? And by then, it's already too late. The Stoics knew that this was one of humanity's biggest mistakes, letting a fleeting emotion decide what you do with your life. For them, the key wasn't to eliminate emotions, but to learn which ones deserve a response and which don't. And if you think that's a bit much, remember what happened at the Oscars with Will Smith. One joke, a flash of anger, and suddenly he stood up and slapped Chris Rock in front of the whole world. One impulsive move, born in a split second, cost him projects, respect, and his reputation. Was it really worth it? That's what happens when you don't put a pause between emotion and action. What lasts a moment can mark your entire life. The Stoics were crystal clear on this. Between what happens and what you do, there's a space. And that space is your power. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that it's not things themselves that disturb us, but how we interpret them. Epictetus taught the same in his lessons. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you choose to respond. Imagine Epictetus with WhatsApp today. Someone sends him a rude message, and instead of jumping into an argument, he just leaves it on read, smiling to himself. Not everything deserves my reaction. Because when you react instantly, it's your amygdala taking over, the part of the brain that fires up when you feel rage or anxiety. But if you train even a small pause, just a few seconds, your prefrontal cortex kicks in, the rational part that helps you think clearly. That pause is like a switch that changes everything. Now picture this. You're at the supermarket checking out and the cashier speaks to you with a bad attitude. "Cash or card?" he snaps, like you're bothering him just by being there. And instead of letting it go, you shoot back with the same energy. "What's your problem? Bad day or something, and that's it, you've taken the bait." He answers even worse, you leave angry. And by the time you're home, it's still spinning in your head. You're irritated. You snap at your partner. You end up arguing over nothing and dinner is ruined. What really happened? You gave your time and energy to a stranger you won't even remember tomorrow. All because of one heated emotion that ruined your whole evening with battles that gave you nothing in return. My friend, understand this. Managing your emotions is like choosing whether you want to be a thermometer or a thermostat. A thermometer has no power. It just reflects the temperature outside. If it's cold, it shows cold. If it's hot, it shows hot. Just like you, when you react automatically, someone speaks to you badly, you snap back. The day starts rough, you spiral with it. You're a prisoner of your environment. The thermostat is different. It doesn't depend on what's going on outside. It regulates. It sets the temperature and works to keep it steady, even when things around it change. And that's what you do every time you choose to pause, breathe, and respond with calm. You become the thermostat of your own life. It's not the world that decides. You decide how you want to live through it. So tell me, are you ready to start training that pause the Stoics held so dear? Try it with something small. Next time someone says something that triggers you, count to 5 in your head before responding. Or ask yourself, does this deserve action or just acknowledgement? Often it's enough to simply admit that you feel something. No need to act on it. You can also take on a Stoic challenge. Once a day, pick a moment when you'd usually react instantly, and do the opposite. Don't reply to that message right away. Don't interrupt when someone cuts you off. Or just stay silent when someone's trying to get a reaction. That little bit of training is worth gold. It reminds you that you're the one in control. Next time you feel the urge to snap back, think of Will Smith. Think about how much a second of unchecked emotion can cost you. Then think of Epictetus. Imagine him calm, grounded, choosing what gets his energy and what doesn't. Who do you want to be more like? My friend, don't waste your life reacting like a thermometer that only reflects what's outside. Start becoming a thermostat. Someone who chooses with clarity what deserves their attention. Every time you pause, you're not just protecting your peace, you're also protecting your time. And in that choice, in that brief silence, real transformation begins. Now tell me, do you remember the last time you lost your temper over something that really didn't deserve it? Share it in the comments, because sharing it is the first step toward awareness. And you're not alone. We're a community of Stoics, learning to respond with calm, not with impulse. Write it down along with this phrase to remind yourself every day. Today I choose my response, not my reaction. 4. Don't suffer over what hasn't happened yet. There are nights when you lie in bed and your mind won't stop, replaying everything that could go wrong tomorrow, what someone might think of you, what might never even happen. You feel exhausted, and you haven't even lived through anything yet. Seneca pointed this out 2,000 years ago. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And he was right. Because what steals your peace isn't what's actually happening. It's everything your mind makes up in advance. Think about how many times this has happened to you. You feel a slight discomfort in your chest, and within minutes, you're imagining yourself in the hospital with the worst diagnosis. Your boss says they want to talk to you tomorrow, and you spend the whole afternoon rehearsing explanations like you're going into court. Or someone takes a while to reply to your message, and suddenly your mind spins a whole story of rejection, anger, or abandonment. In the end, none of it happens. But you've already wasted hours suffering over a ghost. It's like walking through fog and seeing a shadow that looks like a giant monster. You panic, tense up, run, and then, once the fog clears, you realize it was just a bush. Your mind does the same. It creates smoke monsters and convinces you they're real. The result? You waste your time fighting battles that never even arrive. What you're going through has a name. Psychologists call it catastrophizing. It's when your brain turns a small detail into the worst-case scenario, and it happens more often than you think. At the University of Pennsylvania, researchers followed a group of people who wrote down their daily worries. The result? Over 90% never came true. Over 90%. Just think about that. All those sleepless nights, the tight chest, the racing thoughts, they were all made-up movies. You wore yourself out over things that never happened. And here's the hard part. Not only did you suffer, you also wasted pieces of your life on fears that never showed up. You've probably lived something like this. You're waiting for your boss to reply to an important email. An hour goes by. Nothing. You start refreshing the inbox, rereading your message 10 times. Your mind says, "They didn't like it. They think I'm incompetent, I'm going to get fired." Another hour passes, and by now you're so anxious you haven't focused on anything else. Then they finally reply, "Thanks, I'll review and get back to you." That's it. 2 lines that prove your entire spiral was just wasted time. The Stoics trained themselves not to fall into that loop. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we must keep our minds clear and focused on the present, because anything we imagine outside of it is just noise. And if he lived today, he'd probably write in his journal, "I survived another day without any of the disasters my mind promised me." And here's the thing. When you anticipate pain, you're not protecting yourself. You're punishing yourself twice. Once if it happens, and once in your imagination. Do you really want to suffer twice over something that may never even happen? So how do you train your mind to stop wasting your life on imagined fears? Start by asking yourself when a thought overwhelms you, is this really happening right now, or am I just imagining it? That small question brings you back to the present. I also recommend writing down your worries. Every time your mind invents a problem, jot it down. A week later, review the list. You'll see that most of them never came true. That habit teaches your mind not to take every fear so seriously. And if you're up for a Stoic challenge, try this for 7 days. Every time you catch yourself suffering over something that hasn't happened, say out loud, "It doesn't exist yet." It's like turning on the flashlight of reason in the fog. That short phrase breaks the thought spiral and reminds you that the only time you have is now. Just imagine what you could do with all that time you waste on worry. You could learn something new, spend time with your family, make progress on your project, or simply rest, truly rest. Every minute you give to anticipated fears is a minute taken away from your real life. Here's the simple truth. Suffering in advance is wasting your time fighting ghosts. Seneca was right. Don't torture yourself twice. Stay with what's in front of you because everything else doesn't exist yet. And remember this. Don't waste another second battling what hasn't even arrived. Live in the present, because it's the only thing you truly have. 5. Who told you it's too late to learn? I'm sure you've thought it at some point. There's no point starting now, I'm too old for this. And that idea locks you in place like an invisible chain. But here's the thing. You're the one putting that chain on yourself. The funny part is, the Stoics had already spotted this self-deception. Thinking it's too late is like saying, "I've already wasted enough time, might as well waste some more." For them, every moment was a chance to train the mind and build character. It didn't matter if you were 20 or 60. The question was never how many years you've lived, but what you're doing with the ones you have left. Picture someone who never learned English. Years go by, and every time they think about it, they say, "It's not worth it anymore. I should have done it when I was young." And so, 10 more years pass, in which they could have learned it perfectly. The problem wasn't that they started late. The problem was they never started. That's the real mistake. To the Stoics, time was too valuable to waste on excuses. Epictetus was born a slave, with no access to schools or teachers. But he turned curiosity into his tool. With almost nothing, he learned to think, to philosophize, and to teach, becoming one of the greatest Stoic voices in history. If he had told himself, "It's too late for me," we'd never know his name. And let's be honest, what he had against him was 1,000 times harder than what you're facing today. And you don't even need to look that far back. There are places in the world where people prove this every day. In Okinawa, Japan, where many people live well past 100 with full vitality, there's a simple secret. They never stop learning. They keep tending their gardens, practicing crafts, learning music, teaching younger generations. There's no such thing as, "It's too late for me" there, because they understand that the mind and spirit stay alive as long as you keep growing. That attitude, more than genetics, is what gives them longevity and joy. The same applies to your life. The excuse "it's too late" doesn't just steal opportunities, it steals your time. Every day you delay learning something, you lose the chance to transform. And what makes it worse? You do it while secretly envying those who dared to start. It's like watching a train leave and saying, "It's already gone," without realizing the next one is about to arrive, and you're still sitting on the bench. Maybe this is happening to you right now. You tell yourself you can't change jobs because it's too late. But every day you spend stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill you is time that never comes back. That excuse isn't protecting you, it's trapping you. And every time you repeat it, the cost is your own life slipping by. And here's the truth. Learning something new isn't a waste of time. It's the opposite. Did you know that learning keeps your brain young? You don't need a second youth, you just need to stay in motion. And this part matters. When you choose to learn, you're not just gaining knowledge, you're taking your power back. You're proving to yourself that you can still change, that you can still grow. So, let me tell you, stop wasting time. Start with something small. For example, want to learn how to cook? Try one new dish a week. Want to pick up a new language? Listen to something for 10 minutes a day. What about that skill you abandoned halfway through? The key isn't perfection, it's momentum. Every small step is a way of telling your mind, "It's never too late, as long as I start today." Another practical move? Change your language. Delete the phrase "I can't anymore" and replace it with "I just don't know how yet." It may sound like a tiny detail, but it changes everything. "I can't" is a wall. "Not yet" is a door. And every time you choose the door, you unlock a new path. Stop wasting your life on the lie that it's already too late. Epictetus didn't believe it. The elders of Okinawa don't believe it. The real waste is standing still, watching time pass without daring to learn what you've always wanted. You don't need to conquer the world. You just need to keep growing. Every step you take towards something new is a win against fear and resignation. So drop the phrase that's been holding you back and repeat this instead. "It's never too late, as long as I start today." Now, my friend, I've got a challenge for you. But take it seriously. Don't just brush it off as another idea. Choose something you've been telling yourself it's too late for, and take one ridiculously small first step. Write one sentence, learn one chord, go for a 10-minute run, anything. But do it today. And tell us in the comments what that first step will be. That way, you're not just committing to yourself, you're committing to this whole community. And if you feel like it, come back in a week and tell us how it went. We're all here to support each other on this journey to stop wasting life and to transform step by step. 6. You are not just your successes or your failures. There's a story that tells how Alexander the Great conquered half the known world before turning 30. He had wealth, armies, and the respect of millions. And yet one night he wept bitterly because there were no more lands left to conquer. Imagine that. He had achieved what no one else in his time had, and still, he felt empty. That's what happens when you believe your worth comes only from your accomplishments. It's never enough, something is always missing, and you end up wasting your life in a race with no finish line. The same thing happens on the other end. Some people define themselves only by their failures. They repeat to themselves over and over, "I failed at that business. I messed up that relationship. I was never a good student." And they get stuck there. as if their whole identity had been written by one dark chapter of the past. The problem is, both the obsession with success and the fixation on failure lead to the same place, wasting your present. The Stoics knew that neither success nor failure was enough to define you. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome and praised by an entire empire, reminded himself each night in his meditations that praise didn't make him better, and criticism didn't make him worse. He wrote, "What isn't good for the hive isn't good for the bee." What he meant was, what really matters isn't how much applause you get or how often you fall. What matters is whether your actions make sense, whether they contribute to your life and the lives of others. Think about your own life. You've probably had moments where you clung to a win for too long. You aced an exam, got a promotion, received a compliment, and you spent days reliving that moment, but stopped moving forward. Or the opposite. You failed at something and let that wound define you for months, as if everything else in your life stopped counting. In both cases, what happened is the same. You wasted time stuck in the past instead of living the present. It's like your life is an electrocardiogram. If you only look at the peaks, you fool yourself into thinking life is all success. If you only focus on the lows, you drown in the idea that life is failure. But real life is in the full line, the constant movement. What kills you isn't the ups and downs, it's the flat line. Getting stuck at either extreme is the same as living dead. Now picture a concrete situation. You have a great day at work, you get recognition, and you come home with your ego inflated. But later that evening, your partner makes a critical comment, and suddenly you crash. You go from feeling on top of the world to completely deflated in minutes. What happened? Your peace was held hostage by the outside world, by praise and by reproach. And while you swing up and down on that emotional roller coaster, you lose the most valuable thing, your inner balance. The Stoics trained themselves to do the opposite. Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and later became a teacher, didn't define himself by what was taken from him or by what he later achieved. His worth lay in how he lived each day, in the integrity behind his actions, not in the labels society tried to put on him. If he were around today, he'd probably laugh at those Instagram bios that say, wins, X, losses, Y. And he'd say, I am what I do now, not a tally of trophies or defeats. So how can you apply this in your own life? Imagine your life like a video game with two screens. On the first screen, someone throws you a compliment. You're amazing. You nailed it. Normally, your ego would level up. But here's the Stoic challenge. Instead of puffing up, smile, say thank you, and keep walking like nothing's changed. Because the real victory is not becoming addicted to medals. On the second screen, it flips. You get hit with harsh criticism and unfair comment, you're not good enough. Your automatic reflex would be to freeze, to sink, to feel defeated. But try this instead. Listen, breathe, and ask yourself, is there something useful here? If not, let it go. If there is, keep it as a power-up for growth. That way, criticism stops being poison and starts being a resource. And here's a third, super practical move. Every time someone praises or criticizes you, imagine it's like a phone notification. What do you do with most notifications? You mute them. Do the same here. Not everything deserves your attention. Keep only what adds to you. That's how you stay in the game. Don't waste your life stuck in what you achieved or in what you lost. If your value depends on applause, you'll crumble with criticism. And if you define yourself by failure, you're robbing yourself of all the possibilities still ahead. The truth no one tells you is this: you are not your highs or your lows. You are the line you choose to draw each day through your actions. And that line can begin now, right here, no matter what happened before. 7. Without discipline, your life slips away. Think about this. The alarm goes off, you hit snooze and say, 5 more minutes. Then you head to the kitchen and hesitate. Coffee or tea? Something quick for breakfast? Or nothing? You glance at your phone and get sucked into messages, notifications, and some random video. And before you know it, 40 minutes have passed, and you haven't done a single thing that brings you closer to the life you actually want. That's the problem. Without discipline, your time slips through your fingers like water. And if anyone understood this, it was Seneca. To him, time was the real wealth, far more valuable than gold or power. It's not that we have little time, but that we waste a lot of it, he would say over and over again. In his letters, he constantly warned that most people complain about how short life is, when in reality, they're just misusing it. And here's the key. He wasn't talking about big moments. He was talking about the everyday stuff, wasting hours on empty conversations, delaying decisions, getting dragged around by what's expected instead of what really matters. For Seneca, discipline was the filter that separates the essential from the trivial. If you know what's important and act accordingly, time expands. If not, it vanishes. That's why he insisted, it's not enough to wish for a good life. You have to organize yourself to actually live it. Because every day you let pass without intention is a piece of life you'll never get back. And here's something crucial, my friend. Discipline isn't punishment. It's a form of saving. Every time you procrastinate, hesitate, or let yourself be pulled by what you feel like, you spend way more energy than necessary. It's like paying massive interest on something you could have handled up front. What you put off today costs double tomorrow. You've lived this for sure. You leave the dishes in the sink thinking, I'll do them later, it'll be quick. The next day the pile is huge and you waste half an hour. Or you think, this email can wait. And when you finally open it, there are 20 more stacked on top. That lack of discipline doesn't just steal your order, it steals your time, your life. Let me share something that always inspires me. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball legends, was famous for training at 4 a.m., even after exhausting games. When people asked why, he said, because no one else is training at that hour. Every day I do it, I separate myself more from the rest. It wasn't talent, it was repeated discipline. And even though Kobe wasn't a Stoic in the classical sense, his mindset aligned with them. Don't waste time on excuses. Use every day to build who you want to be. Now think about you. How much time do you lose just doubting whether to start or not? Discipline takes that doubt away. It's like the highway lane. You don't have to choose at every inch where to go. The path is already marked. That doesn't limit your freedom. It gives you speed. So it's time to shift things. One simple idea is to have a fixed morning ritual. Something small, but non-negotiable. It could be writing a single line in your journal, doing 10 push-ups, or making your bed. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is that it becomes your starting signal. That small gesture tells your mind, the day has begun, and I'm in control. Another strategy? End the day with a quick check-in. Ask yourself, what did I do today that brought me closer to my path, and what stole time from me? It's not to beat yourself up, it's to adjust. Marcus Aurelius did this in his Meditations, reviewing his actions with brutal honesty. That daily reflection is like checking your account balance. You see where your time is leaking and how to recover it tomorrow. And choose one uncomfortable task every day, and do it first. No excuses. It could be a call you're avoiding, a tough email, or working out even if it's raining. Do it before anything else. That one move sets the tone for your whole day, because it shows you're in charge, not your impulses. Look at it this way. Discipline doesn't trap you, it frees you. The more disciplined you are with what matters, the more room you have to truly enjoy what comes after. Without discipline, you spend all day putting out fires, stuck in chaos. With discipline, life flows clearer, and you stop wasting precious minutes in hesitation and delay. Here's the truth. If you don't master your routine devours you. Every excuse is a hole in the bucket of your life. Every solid habit is a lid that helps you keep what matters. Don't waste your time on repeated decisions and excuses you already know by heart. Let discipline be the highway that takes you straight to the life you want. No detours at every turn. Because without discipline, your life slips away. But with it, every second starts to truly count. 8. Getting criticized? There's no better sign. If you think criticism only happens to you, let me remind you of something. Seneca, one of the sharpest minds in Rome, was called a hypocrite for advising Emperor Nero. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the whole Roman Empire, had generals who whispered behind his back that he was weak. And Epictetus, even after becoming a respected teacher, was still looked down on for having been born a slave. Not even they were spared. The difference: they didn't let those voices take over their lives. They understood that clinging to criticism is the real waste, hours handed over to words that build absolutely nothing. This happens to us all the time. Someone throws out a comment in 2 seconds, and you give them 2 full days of your mental space. You dwell on it in the shower, in bed, while driving. You play out imaginary responses like you're in a courtroom that doesn't exist. And here's the irony. The person who said it has already forgotten about it, but you're still stuck, as if your life depended on their opinion. It's like getting a package delivered to your door. You open it and find it's full of garbage. But you sign for it, bring it inside, and leave it sitting in your living room. That's how criticism works. You didn't have to accept it, but you let it in anyway. Picture this, and tell me if it sounds familiar. You're at work and your boss says, "This could have been better." The tone is neutral, not even hostile. You smile on the outside, but inside, a storm starts spinning. Am I not good enough? Are they thinking of firing me? What did I do wrong? The rest of the day is ruined, not because of the comment, but because of the time you chose to give it. You go home and can't enjoy dinner or conversation with your family. That phrase is still looping in your mind. It wasn't the words that ruined your day, it was the attention you gave them. Or imagine posting something online and someone comments, "You're ridiculous." You don't know what you're talking about. 1 line, 5 seconds. But you read it 20 times. You tell your friends. You read it again before bed. That person gave you 5 seconds, and you gave them hours. So, who lost more? Now imagine Marcus Aurelius with a Twitter account. Someone tweets, "Worst emperor ever." Do you think he'd waste half the night arguing back? Not a chance. He'd probably write in his journal, "Another opinion, but it doesn't change who I am." Then he'd close his notebook and go to sleep in peace. What mattered to him wasn't proving anything. It was continuing to do his duty. The Stoics saw right through that trap. Epictetus used to say, "It's not things themselves that disturb us. It's the opinion we have about them." Criticism doesn't touch you unless you accept it. That's the shift that changes everything. The criticism isn't the problem. The real problem is what you do with it afterward. It's like a mosquito bite. It stings for a second, but if you keep scratching, you turn it into a wound. That's what we do. We scratch and scratch until one comment becomes a prison. So try this with something simple. Next time someone criticizes you, treat it like a timer. Ask yourself, how much of my life does this deserve? If the answer is 0, you let it go. Literally. Move your body. Do something else. Change locations. That action breaks the cycle. Another way to approach it? Use it as a filter. Ask, is there anything useful in this? If there is, keep it as a lesson. If not, return it to sender and move on. Seneca did exactly that. He kept what helped and let go of what didn't. And here's a challenge for you. For 7 days, every time someone criticizes you, instead of reacting, write it down in a journal, as if you were Epictetus responding. Be calm, be ironic, be silent. Whatever fits, but capture it. That simple act turns a criticism into a training session. Instead of stealing your time, it builds your character. Getting hooked on criticism is like trying to sweep away the shadow of a cloud. You work hard, you wear yourself out, and in the end, nothing's actually clean. The critic moves on with their life. You're the only one still stuck. Don't waste your time explaining yourself to people who aren't interested in understanding you. That energy is far more valuable invested in creating, growing, moving forward. So next time someone criticizes you, remember this. If you're being criticized, it's because you're in motion. The ones doing nothing never get criticized. And while they talk, you keep building. That, my friend, will always be the best response. And if you still feel like the days are slipping through your fingers, like nothing you do has real direction, maybe it's time to take one step further. There's another video on the screen that's all about that. Watch it. It might be exactly the call you need to stop wasting your life and finally focus on what matters. 9. Your worth doesn't depend on anyone. My friend, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to be honest. Do you wait for someone to praise you before you feel like you matter? Do you only work hard if you know someone's watching? Do you only celebrate your wins when others recognize them? If the answer is yes, then I'm sorry to say it, but you're wasting your life. Because if your worth depends on applause or attention, you're not your own. You're just an actor on someone else's stage. But this isn't some new problem. The Stoics pointed it out centuries ago. Seneca said it in a way that cuts deep. A man who respects himself needs no witnesses. For him, the goal wasn't to convince others. It was to be at peace with yourself. Because if your self-esteem depends on an audience, you'll always be on a roller coaster. Today they tell you you're amazing and you shoot to the top. Tomorrow they criticize you and you crash. How much of your life are you losing to that endless up and down? Think about this. A diamond doesn't stop being a diamond just because it's kept in a dark drawer, right? Its value doesn't depend on who's looking at it or what light it's under. You're the same. It doesn't matter if no one claps, or if no one sees your effort, your worth is still there. The problem is we forget it. And while we wait for someone else to confirm it, time slips away in doubt and comparison. Marcus Aurelius wrote it again and again in his meditations. What others think of you doesn't change your nature. You are what you choose to be through your actions, not what others say. Their words only reflect who they are, not who you are. And if you choose to live chasing those opinions, you'll never find peace. Because you're giving your entire life over to someone else's judgment instead of governing it yourself. And this isn't just ancient philosophy. Modern psychology backs it up. Researchers at the University of Rochester found that people who constantly seek external validation are more prone to anxiety and depression. It makes sense. If your happiness depends on other people's approval, you live like a weather vane, spinning in whatever direction they blow. No roots, no ground of your own. Imagine this. A friend calls you in a tough moment. You cancel your plans, go to their house, and spend the whole afternoon with them. Listening, supporting, just being there. No photos, no likes, no applause. When you get home, maybe no one knows what you did. No one congratulates you. No one says a word. Does that mean it wasn't valuable? Of course not. It was probably one of the most meaningful things you did all day. Because you gave someone what they truly needed, your presence. But if you only measure your life by the applause it gets, then you throw that moment away, as if it didn't matter. And in truth, it's in those quiet acts that your real worth is built. So, how do you break out of that trap? Before bed, review your day and say out loud one thing you did well, even if no one else saw it. Maybe you got up without hitting snooze. Maybe you stayed calm when someone was rude. Maybe you finally finished a task you'd been putting off for weeks. Those small victories won't go viral. No one will clap. But those are the moments that build self-respect. Write down one line each day, celebrating something real you did. Maybe today you trained even though you didn't feel like it. Or maybe instead of scrolling aimlessly, you used that time to read, write it down and celebrate it. Sounds weird, I know. But how many times have you waited for someone else to do it? Why not do it yourself? That habit rewires your brain to value what's internal over what's external. And one more thing. Do something important. And don't tell anyone. Not your friends, not your partner, not Instagram. Just do it for you. Work out. Study, learn something new. Keep a promise you made to yourself. And the next day, hold on to it in silence. You'll see how freeing it is to realize you don't need an audience to validate your actions. That silence becomes strength. Remember this, Every time you sit around waiting for someone else's approval, you're wasting your life in a theater that leads nowhere. You live to please, not to grow. Seneca knew it well and said it clearly. Self-respect needs no spectators, and that kind of respect is built with actions, not with applause. So the next time you feel like your worth depends on what others say, pause. Ask yourself, am I less valuable just because no one noticed? The answer is always no. Don't waste another second waiting for spectators. Your life is far too short to be measured in likes, praise, or criticism. You're valuable because you exist, because you act, because you keep your word. And once you really understand that, you stop being an actor on someone else's stage and become the author of your own life. 10. Keep your word to yourself. I hate to be the one to say it, but your biggest enemy in life isn't criticism, social media, or even time. The most dangerous enemy is you, when you don't keep your promises. Because every time you break your word, you lose trust in yourself. And without self-trust, my friend, there is no discipline, no habits, no real transformation. If there was one thing the Stoics didn't compromise on, it was integrity. To them, keeping your word was the foundation of virtue. It wasn't enough to talk about philosophy. You had to live it. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every night to stay aligned with who he wanted to be the next day. Epictetus had zero tolerance for excuses. He believed there was no point in repeating lessons if you weren't going to apply them. And Seneca made it clear, your character isn't measured by what you say you'll do, but by what you actually do when no one's watching. For a Stoic, breaking your word was like breaking your very essence. That same strength shows up centuries later in Florence Nightingale. At a time when nursing was seen as low and dirty work, she made a promise to dedicate her life to relieving suffering. And she kept that promise, even during the horrors of the Crimean War, surrounded by infection, blood, and death. She could have quit 1,000 times, but she didn't. She honored her word to herself and forever changed the future of medicine. Can you imagine if she'd broken that promise? Thousands of lives would have been lost, and nursing as we know it might not exist. One promise kept, just like the Stoics said, was enough to change the world. Now think about something small, something common. You say, tomorrow I'll start working out. Sounds easy. But when you don't follow through, the real loss isn't the missed workout. It's the trust. Your mind quietly registers, another promise I didn't keep. And little by little you stop believing in yourself. You say, I'll go to bed early, but you stay up scrolling. Another broken word. You say, I'll save money this month, and end up buying whatever pops up. Each crack, no matter how small, is time wasted, because you stay trapped in the cycle of starting and quitting over and over again. So how do you apply this today? I've got 3 simple but powerful steps. First, create a log. Call it a Stoic notebook if you want. No need for long journaling. Just write one clear promise to yourself each morning. One line. Today I'll train for 20 minutes. Today I'll call that friend I've been avoiding. Today I won't check my phone in the first hour. That's it, but write it down. A promise in your head vanishes. A promise on paper becomes a contract. Second, make it visible. Don't leave it in a drawer, stick it on your fridge, on a post-it on your mirror, as your phone wallpaper. Every time you see it, it's a signal to your mind. I promised this. Epictetus would have loved this technique. He believed surrounding yourself with reminders was one of the fastest ways to train your character. Third, track it. Get creative if you want. Make a simple chart on paper. Use a wall calendar. Every day you keep your promise. Mark it with a big visible X. The goal isn't to win some external prize. It's to show your brain that you're someone who follows through. And believe me, there are few things more powerful than looking in the mirror and knowing your actions match your words. The Stoics didn't have apps, digital trackers, or productivity hacks. They had what they valued most: daily review. Marcus Aurelius wrote down his failures. Seneca turned his letters into honest confessions of growth. Epictetus treated each day as a chance to train. Their method was simple. Don't let promises stay invisible. Turn them into visible commitments. And if one day you mess up, don't let it become an excuse to give up. Do what a Stoic would do. Write it down, figure out what went wrong, and start again immediately. What you can't do is what most people do. Let one slip turn into weeks or months of delay. That's the real waste. My friend, think of it this way. Your word is a bridge between the life you dream of and the life you live. Every promise you keep is a solid stone in that bridge. Every promise you break pulls one stone out and shakes the whole thing. How are you supposed to cross if you keep tearing it apart? Here's the truth no one tells you. Transformation doesn't depend on motivation or inspiration. It depends on your ability to keep your word, especially when no one's watching. That is the most Stoic act of all. So here's your final challenge. Don't make a list of 20 things. Just choose one. Write it down, now. Put it somewhere you'll see it. And follow through before today ends. Because once you learn to keep your word to yourself, my friend, you stop wasting your life. And you start truly transforming it. Stopping the waste of your life doesn't mean waiting for some massive revelation. It means living on purpose, moment by moment. Every decision, every habit, and every promise you keep to yourself is a brick in the path of your transformation. It's not magic, it's not luck, it's consistency. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you stop giving your time away and start becoming who you've always wanted to be. If you've made it this far, write this in the comments. My time is no longer for sale. That way, I'll know who the true warriors with a Stoic heart are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video so you don't miss the ones coming next. Also, in the description box, we've left a few resources to help you dive deeper into Stoic teachings. Our goal is to bring you as much value as we possibly can. And if at any point you feel like supporting us so we can keep creating this content, check the pinned comment. You'll find how to do it there. Now, I invite you to explore our playlist right here on the screen. It's designed to help you face life with greater wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep growing together. Until the next session, take care and keep embracing your Stoic self.